coming up. What an excellent day for head spinning. Well, howdy folks, and welcome to Minute 80 of the Exorcist Minute, a show where we endeavor to examine, extrapolate, and excavate The Exorcist, minute by terrifying minute. My name is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I'm Kynan Diaz.
And we'll be your holy guides on this journey through what some have called the scariest movie of all time. Okay, so our minute begins with the demon slapping Chris across the face.
And it ends with Father Karras fishing in his pockets for a cigarette.
Yes, folks, we got Dimmy back with us, and thank God, because things are getting really intense now.
God, I want to just skip over the rest of this. Yeah. Just get to Dimmy and see what he's up to.
Let's just skip to Dimmy, right? Yeah. We'll call this episode, Oops, All Dimmy.
But what about all the other parts with all the other famous stuff in it?
I don't know. It's just like a gremlin, Captain Howdy got into the works and ate all the cellophane. Cellophane, you guys still use cellophane? Anyway, moving on. But no, at the top of this minute, which we got to get back to, it's still just Chris and Regan. Well, Chris and Regan and the demon. Who is still holding Chris, and now he pulls her back up. Again, we see this malicious, triumphant face on Regan for just a split second as she reels back and slaps her mother across the face. Now, Kynan, one of the big controversies of this scene, of this movie, is just how much of the performance is Linda Blair and how much of it is these other ladies, Eileen Dietz, Mercedes McCambridge, and then, of course, we got Annie Miles. But specifically, this scene is touted as proof that it wasn't all just Linda Blair.
Oh, yeah. But she says so.
Right, and she fully admits this as well. Right, it's not like she's yeah. This publicity is like, oh, she was hot. No, like she is fully admitting this as well. But also, we got to look closer at this thing. We got to look closer at the actual finished film. So I'm watching this thing, and Linda Blair reels back, ready to smack Ellen Burstyn across the face. And I'm thinking, okay, here comes the cut. We're going to see Eileen Dietz from the back when the slap actually connects. That's what it says, not only in the Amazon X-ray, which by now we know means absolutely nothing anymore. But not just there. That's what it says on every piece of publication, every interview, every anecdote, every printed word on this subject. It says that Eileen Dietz was used when the demon smacks Ellen Burstyn across the room. And I do want to give credit where credit is due, folks. I absolutely do. And maybe there are some frames on the cutting room floor which we are not seeing. But Kynan, look at this slap in the finished film that we have and tell me what you see.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So I was, let me read what it says here on the Amazon X-ray.
Okay. A reading from the Book of Bezos.
So it says here, in the scene where Regan is masturbating with the crucifix, Eileen Dietz was used for the shot where Regan belts her mother across the face. William Friedkin felt they needed someone with more heft physically to perform the stunt, and the double was shot from the back. Maybe they did do that. I mean, maybe they did. I mean, I'm sure they have. I mean, I would imagine that some of these shots from the back are Eileen Dietz. I mean, specifically the shot where we are holding Ellen Burstyn's face into the crotch.
Right, correct.
That's Eileen Dietz, almost certainly.
Almost certainly, yes.
Yeah, but a shot. So you know, it's very likely that we have the shot where she's holding Ellen Burstyn's face into her crotch, and then Ellen Burstyn is brought back up, and Eileen Dietz probably did do a stunt where she looks like she's smacking Ellen Burstyn, but in the film, the shot is of Linda Blair smacking Ellen Burstyn. So
yes, and I do recall. Now that I'm thinking about it, yes, like seeing some behind the scenes footage where it was just like raw, unedited, and they went through the entire motion of the lick me and the fighting over the crucifix, and then the drawing back and the smacking, and it was all Eileen Dietz.
Right.
But then how much of that is used and how much of that we see in the actual finished film is a whole nother ball of yarn, ball of wax, can of worms,
can of balls.
Can of
it is, I would say, zero. Right? There is nothing of the back of Eileen Dietz as an arm reels back or anything. So we have we're on Ellen Burstyn's side when she's pulled into the crotch and gets a face full of blood, and then for the smack part, we don't even see Ellen Burstyn's face as she's acting like she got smacked. It's all Linda Blair, all Linda Blair all the time.
Yeah. Whoops. All Linda Blair. Yeah. That's what Friedkin said. It's like, hey, where's Billy? Where's my free? This is Eileen. Hey, Billy, where's my footage? And there's like, whoops, all Linda Blair.
Yeah. So that's just there are people who've been looking at this movie in the kind of format where we've been doing this, shot by shot. They've been doing this for decades. And I'm not sure. I'm sure we're not the first people to point this out, that this is a repeated myth or just a repeated piece of publicity, because the story that we have in that tiny little paragraph, that sounds like a great story.
Yes.
That's just not in the film.
Yeah. And this is, and folks, again, right, we want to give credit where credit is due. We're talking about like this specific set of frames right here, right? We're not talking about other things. We're talking about like this specific moment, because it has been kind of like dragged out and like shown, to the masses. Like this is proof that that Linda Blair was helped during this, right? And you can say that about other frames and other shots in this film, but you actually can't say that here. But it is one of those like fun things to say. You push up your glasses. Oh, did you know that Frankenstein is actually the name of the doctor? Right? Like it's that type of thing that you want to bring up at parties. It's like, well, did you know Eileen Dietz? It's like, yes, that is true, but not in this instance.
Right. Whereas in the finished film of Frankenstein, the monster is wait. The monster isn't Frankenstein. Damn it.
I don't even know what you were trying to do.
In the finished film, the doctor is still named Frankenstein.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to say.
My favorite one of those is Ian's. He goes up to people and he says, "Did you know?" Actually, a lot of people don't know this, but Frankenstein is actually the name of the werewolf.
I like this trope a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this, but Frankenstein is the name of the movie. and I've heard, what was it like? Pedants know that the monster isn't named Frankenstein, but wise men know that he is, because the doctor is the monster.
Yes, there we go. I can't operate on this boy because I'm Frankenstein.
Well, but this is one of those things we pointed out, that this movie by minute format, which is the first time we've been doing this, right? It's interesting what you can learn, and you can, see for yourself some of the Hollywood myths that are there, in these great movies, and then debunk some of them, like Hannibal Lecter blinks all the goddamn time. Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah. If anybody does a minute of the lambs, right, or a Hannibal minute or whatever, that would be you would be remiss not to point that out every single time he blinks. You would have to be like, yep, there we go. There's that myth debunked once more. Yeah.
There's a lot of these with like Disney movies, like from our era, where they would have things that when you take a screenshot out of context, it looks dirty. And so people are like, oh, look at this. Like in the wedding scene between Vanessa and Prince Eric in Little Mermaid.
Yes.
They're like, look,
Vanessa?
That's Ursula's alter ego.
Really?
Yeah.
She gave her alter ego a name?
I don't know. Yeah, why didn't she just call it Ursula? He doesn't know who Ursula is.
Yeah. Wait a minute, Ursula.
Ursula, the sea witch.
I have a confession to make. My name isn't Vanessa. It's Frankenstein. But no, my name isn't Vanessa. It's Ursula. Right. And Prince Eric would go, oh,
okay.
Okay. I didn't know the name of the girl who saved me, so because she couldn't. Well, no, she could at that time. Yeah. Why? Or just call herself Ariel.
Or Ursula. What's wrong with Ursula? Ursula's a beautiful name.
What is wrong with Ursula?
I don't know. Ursula was a beautiful name until Ursula the Sea Witch came along. And
right. I still think it's a beautiful name.
But you can't name your daughter Ursula now. People would look at you.
Yeah, you would have to
name your daughter Ariel. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, there's the little priest. There's a little tiny priest guy who's marrying Vanessa, Ursula, and Prince Eric. And in screenshots, it looks like he has a boner. You've heard this,
Yes.
yeah. But then when you watch the scene itself, it's clearly not like it's
Right.
clearly from movement where he's moving and that's his knee. Like it's very
Yeah.
clear. But
Right.
you know, once you show people that, you know, the out of context version, then they can only see the you know, they can only see that he has an erection.
Right.
Right. Yeah. They just insist on it.
Right. So yes, so let's get back to this scene. We were talking about what we actually see in the finished film. So I see a very scary, very demonic Linda Blair reel back and then follow through with a smack. And then we cut to Ellen Burstyn crashing to the floor. Now, I think most Exorcist fans know that this is one of the famous injuries here. With Ellen Burstyn sustaining a permanent injury to her back due to the mechanics of this scene and what they did to make her fly back like that. Do you know what they did? So this effect was created and pulled off by special effects artist, I'm going to try to get this name right, Marcel Vercouter. Sounds French.
That's pretty the way you say it. Yeah, I like that.
Vercouter. Do you want a can of LaCroix? I'm sorry. Do you mean Le Croix? Because that is what we drink. We do not drink LaCroix.
The cross.
Lacrosse.
No,
no,
the cross. That's the Captain Howdy. That's how you get rid of Captain Howdy.
Lacrosse. Captain Howdy is just Pepé Le Pew. Ew. That's
worse.
He's worse than Captain Howdy.
Much worse.
Yeah, folks, you wonder why you never see Pepé Le Pew anymore, huh? Yeah.
I think
he's gross.
Think about it for 10 seconds, you'll figure it out.
Okay, yeah. We need a palate cleanser. Let's go back to The Exorcist. But yeah, so okay, this guy, Marcel Vercouter, right? Who in every interview I have seen where he talks about this injury or the one that he gave to Linda Blair. Remember that one, folks? Like with Linda on the bed strapped to like the crazy rocking harness.
Right.
In all of these interviews, Kynan, am I wrong, or is he like a little bit kind of like jovial about it?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, he's
sort of laughing through these interviews,
right?
And you know, I think part of it is like that is the culture. I don't think he's alone from a lot of these stunt people from the before times, like say before like 5 years ago. Right. I think there's been a major change in the way that people talk about these stunt injuries. But in one of these interviews, I don't know which ones you had seen recently, but in one of them, he's like, I guess that's just the way showbiz works, you know, is you give him an injury. Yeah. I think that's endemic of the culture. I don't think he was a particularly like gung ho crazy stunt person. I think that's sort of how these stories used to go.
Yeah. I was watching these interviews and I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt because he seems like a nice old grandpa guy who just happens to enjoy like pulling you on ropes and cracking your spine.
Right.
And I was trying to think like, oh, maybe it's like nervous laughter. Maybe that's how he kind of like is recounting it and he's like chuckling nervously, right? Like I just like knowing what we know about what happens like because of this scene, it just struck me as a little bit weird that he was like kind of chuckling through it. And like, yeah, folks, it's the craziest thing to watch. Like these two people talk about this injury, right? You got Ellen Burstyn talking about the pain that she felt and the anger and the incredulity, right? That they would even try such a thing, risk an actor's safety, all for like a quick shot. And then you hard cut to this guy and he's just kind of like laughing through it. And this is the same guy, like you get an interview with Linda Blair and she's recounting like this horrible moment with the harness that comes loose, right? We've already had that minute and it's like cracking her back. And again, hard cut to this guy and is like, and she was strapped in there and I had her. I could do whatever I wanted. Like, dude, you're not roping cattle.
Yeah.
So he recounts both of these instances right alongside the ladies recounting them. And in both of those, the tone is very different when they switch over to him. And I don't know why they even like allowed that into the documentary. I don't
know. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, this culture about injuries, like I'm saying, is very, very different now. It's changing now. I'm still shocked whenever there is an accident on a major set, that these things still happen. Like the people on Deadpool 2 should be in jail Like they killed a woman. You know, and I don't know how they got away with that. So
Yeah.
like it's all
Wait.
Yeah.
I did not know about this.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So this is a terrible one. So they asked this woman who was they labeled her as a stunt driver when she wasn't a stunt driver. She's just like a motorcycle driver. She'd never done a movie stunt before. And they gave her this part where she had to double for somebody, and they told her not to wear a helmet. And then they had so they gave her a bike that looked like a bike that she knew, but they had altered it. So it was like,
not told her?
Yeah. So like, here's the bike, you know, and it looks just like the bike that she's used to. And they'd altered the way that it handled, and she died in an accident. And I don't understand how, those people aren't in jail.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, like it's weird how it still happens, you know, these very, high profile accidents like that. Or, you know, that's awful. Running over Dylan O'Brien, who is the lead of the Maze Runner, running him over with like a stunt tank. Like, I don't understand how that happens. But you know, in the past couple of years, at least they don't, like, I haven't seen any footage of anybody going, yeah, we ran Dylan over. Ha 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 ha. Isn't that so funny? And we had to shut down production, our lead guy. There's still a little bit of it, like with, you know, Tom Cruise does his own stunts, and he's like really proud of it. And like he does take the footage of his ankle being broken on whichever Mission Impossible that is, you know, and shows it around. And it's like, look at me. This is kind of funny, but, you know, it's much less funny, when you're making decisions that hurt other people, you know, when Tom Cruise is like, I'm going to be the one to do it or whatever. I mean, you know, that's not inconceivable that Tom Cruise dies doing a movie stunt, which is in a 65-year-old Tom Cruise, that could happen where he dies on the set of his next movie.
Right. Yeah. Well, geez. Yeah. So I mean, like, knowing that now, like about Deadpool, gosh. And then looking back at this, I mean, yeah, at least nobody was killed. Yeah. Like, God, sheesh. But like, okay.
Well, my basic point is that they don't go around necessarily going, oh, isn't that funny how unsafe this was?
Right.
And here, because it's like, you know, this is 50, 60 years ago, or at least in those times, those interviews that we saw, like 40 years before. And Ellen Burstyn lived or whatever. But I think it also has to come from like the top, right? Like it's Friedkin's fault. Like Friedkin sets the tone for these things as the director.
Oh, yes, absolutely. All my blame is going on Friedkin. Yeah. Because and we're gonna get into it. We're gonna actually walk you through this thing, guys. So let's do it. Let's go through this play by play. So I'm going to go according to Ellen Burstyn herself, because she recounts it pretty succinctly in, I believe it is the Fear of God documentary. She says that she had a rig around her midriff with a wire coming out the back. And so the she says stunt man, but it's Marcel. He's pulling her, yanking her back, and she's crashing to the floor like you see. If you look, folks, actually, you can see the place where the wire comes out of the set. Like, it raises the little hem of that curtain just the tiniest bit. Right?
Yeah, you can see it for 4 frames, I've counted.
Yeah. And that's visible right before Ellen Burstyn falls. So back to that shot in just a second. But so he yanks back, and she falls to the floor, crashes to the floor in that little corner of the set. And so they do one take, and by all accounts, it's a really good take. She's yanked back, she falls, and it looks good. But Friedkin wants to do another one. So before the next take, Ellen Burstyn goes to him and says, "Billy, he's pulling me too hard, I could get hurt." To which Friedkin replies, "Well, it's got to look real." At which point, Ellen Burstyn does not slap him across the face and grab him and shake him so hard that he receives permanent spinal damage, because Ellen Burstyn is a nice lady and not a raging psychopath like he is. No. She says, she reiterates, like to a child, she says, "I understand, but I'm telling you, I could get hurt," which is completely understandable. Burstyn is 100% in the right here. So Friedkin says, "Okay, don't pull her so hard." So then, and this whole time, Marcel is like standing there with both of them. So it's the 3 of them talking, right? Or Marcel listening, I guess. But so then Burstyn turns to go, and as she does, she senses something pass between these 2 men. Like, she feels that they have shared a look behind her back. And later, Vercoutère, Marcel, also admits that Friedkin then went to him and said, "Really give it to her." This is after she specifically asked for them to like tone it down. And so he did. They do one more take. Marcel Vercoutère yanks Ellen Burstyn back, and she falls so hard that it permanently injures her spine. I believe it was specifically her coccyx. And folks, if you're wondering where on your spine your coccyx is, just ask yourself, what part of my spine would be the worst, most excruciating, fragile, most painful part to fall on? So much so that the makeup of your body is designed to surround it with other bones, muscle, and butt. Your coccyx is housed in the thickest, densest part of your body. You're literally sitting on it right now, but you're also not, because it's wrapped in a pillow. That's the part of her spine that Ellen Burstyn fell on and permanently damaged. And that's what we see in the final cut of the film. That is the take that they used.
I would love to see the other take, and to compare them. Back
the one where she doesn't injure herself.
Yeah. Because
I'm sorry. The one where Friedkin doesn't injure.
Right, exactly. Right. I'd love to see that. I mean, it's gone. I think I don't know if it exists. I don't have any indication that it does. But back then, they didn't keep alternate takes usually for very long, so it's rare to see deleted scenes like we have for this film with the Reagan licking Sharon's ankles and that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So that's relatively rare we have that. But yeah, I mean, I wonder, it was probably pretty good. I mean, this one is, if I could be cold, dispassionate AI Kynan, this is a very good shot, right? It's very affecting. But I would love to see the other one, see was this worth it? I mean, and of course it's not worth it.
Right. And yeah, folks, even if you don't know about that that little bit of Exorcist lore about how she injured herself, this shot is already just hard to watch, right? She falls back into the frame, and let's just forget about the coccyx for just a second, because the way her neck and head whip violently back and into the wall is by itself absolutely unforgivable. That should be enough to make your blood boil. Even for a stunt person, that is unacceptable. People have gone to court for less whiplash than that, than what is in that shot. And probably the only reason she never talks about that is because the absolute agony of what she's feeling in her lower spine right now has completely eclipsed it. And you can see the pain on her face. And speaking of seeing it, folks, this is literally adding insult to an injury here. If you'll notice, the camera moves in. It moves in on her face to get a better look at this real injury that has happened. You may also notice that this cut is relatively short. That's because it's cut right before Ellen Burstyn, not Chris McNeil, but Ellen Burstyn shouts, "Turn the fucking camera off," because even in her pain, even in her agony, she could see Friedkin motioning to Owen Roizman to move in closer, and she could not stand the fact that they were willing to get a quick shot before calling an ambulance. Kynan, what is your assessment of all of this?
Well, yeah, you talked about that as well in the Linda Blair shot, where we actually do have behind the scenes footage where it's, we see the full thing where Linda Blair is injured, and it's, they keep rolling.
You can
a little
see
bit
her
too
crying.
long,
Yeah.
and you can see her crying, and it's Ellen Burstyn who goes to go and comfort Linda Blair, right, when it's not Billy Friedkin is doing it. Yeah. I'm not a fan of that.
No.
Yeah. So my assessment is bad. No good. No good, Billy.
Yeah. Let the records show, folks, we are anti Ellen Burstyn and Linda Blair injury on the Exorcist Minute.
Yeah. It's interesting when Ellen Burstyn is recounting that. I think we saw the same interview. She has to say, "Turn the effing camera off." She has
right.
I wonder, because she does play a lot of oftentimes high strung women, and women who. Part of the reason often you hire Ellen Burstyn is to show this simmering anger, and then she gets these big moments where she tells people off, But in her real life, I wonder if she has trouble swearing or not.
Oh yeah,
because the stunt performer, the guy Marcel, as he's telling in the interview that I saw, he's like, "Are you sure you want me to do this to you, Billy? Ellen Burstyn, this is a really nice lady," is how he describes her.
Yes,
right?
yeah. He calls her a nice lady.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you want me to do this? She's such a nice lady.
Yeah. So yeah, and I guess that is something that we can never know. But yeah, I imagine if there was a time for Ellen Burstyn to actually say fucking,
right.
It would be when Friedkin breaks her coccyx.
Right.
Yeah. But so I think the thing that gets me the most is that it seems like we were talking about so unnecessary.
Mhm.
Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know enough about stunts and special effects or even just like cinematography, but I feel like there are so many other safer ways to get this shot or the message behind this shot without literally breaking someone's back, literally breaking your mama's back. Right?
Yes.
I mean, for Christ's sake, they put a pillow at the base of that fireplace to catch that falling picture frame. Remember in the hypnotism scene?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what, you don't want to break a frame, but like,
right. Where's the pillow here? Yeah.
yeah. But then, yeah, you're telling me there was no other way, like another body double or just some padding or a pillow, right? To, make her butt look a little bit bigger for safety,
Yeah. I mean, that picture frame would have cost them 50 cents every time, right?
Yeah.
Every single time they wanted to break that picture.
Mm-hmm.
But we have Ellen. We've already paid her, her salary for the whole movie. So we have her. So we can just keep throwing her back over and over and over again.
Now I get it.
Yes, I'm being, yeah, exactly. No, I am being sarcastic, but that's the kind of economic thinking that goes into some of these decisions sometimes. Like,
wow, Jesus. Yeah. And, or like even, Kynan, why can't Ellen Burstyn just fly back on her own?
I'm sure she wanted to. I bet they didn't let her show that,
I'm an actor. I can pretend like I was smacked across the room. Like,
right, Right. Or, if we have this wire thing, it could be Ellen Burstyn falls to the floor on a pillow off frame, and the wire pulls her back to, once she's landed, the wire could pull her back to the wall. So the actual fall, which is what hurts her, the fall to the floor is what hurts her, not the her hitting her head against the wall. So she could just
You're saying
fall.
that's what could have happened. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like she could just fall herself, and be in control of her own fall, which is off camera,
Right.
And then the wire could pull her back.
Yeah. I mean, like one of the first acting classes that I took here in LA was a stage combat class where like we would fight with swords and we would do like punches and kicks and stuff like that. And we would do tumblings. Like we would learn how to tumble or fly back from a punch. And like most importantly, how to fall.
Right.
There's got to be a better way to do this, a better way than like trusting a guy who is essentially blind because he can't see you because he's behind the wall, like when he's pulling, and trusting him to yank you backwards to land on your back. I say there's a better way to do this. There's an infinite number of better ways to do this. I don't think there's a worse way to do this.
Right.
It would be safer if Linda Blair actually smacked Ellen Burstyn across the wall.
Right.
Or like smacked her to the wall.
Yeah, because most of it would be relying on Ellen Burstyn acting.
Yes. Right. Okay, so now, folks, as much as I hated talking about that actual real-life horror, the next shot brings us back into the realm of well-crafted fictional horror. This next shot of Linda Blair's face as the thing inside Regan is observing its handiwork is so quick, but let us not go past it just yet, because this look that Linda Blair is giving is so disturbing and also so interesting as a choice, because at this moment, the demon is not smiling. You would expect after this victory for the demon to be like grinning and gloating, like look at this, look at what I have done, right? I have caused massive amounts of physical, mental, and emotional damage to both of you, right? I got both of you. And you would expect a 14-year-old actor playing a demon. Hell, you would expect an adult actor playing a demon to be grinning and leering and gloating over this victory they just had, right? That would have been my first choice, like, haha, I got you, right? But instead, what Linda Blair is giving us is this intense, hungry stare, right? It is the same expression on the Captain Howdy face in The Void, right? And I thought, oh my God, how appropriate, right? It's that same look of like intense, almost lustful hunger, as if she's taking it all in, eating it up with her eyes, right? And that is something I noticed this time around, and something I think we can examine as we continue through this film. How is our Captain Howdy similar to the devils and the demons that we've seen before and since, and how is he different? Right? But yeah, and I think part of that is that that hunger whenever he is observing observing pain.
Right. This shot of Linda Blair where her lips are just getting so chapped, I'm just thinking I have a cold right now. I'm like, oh, she's got what I have.
Yeah.
She's got one of these summer colds that I've got. Oh, goodness.
Them summer colds are the worst. I wouldn't go up there to the old bacon place if I were you. You might catch a summer cold.
Right, they got themselves a case of the cat fever.
Not cat scratch fever. That's a different thing.
No, my cats are too well behaved.
Yeah. So folks, if you've noticed, Keenan's not feeling his best right now, but he is still giving us a stellar performance here.
Oh, it's so hard. It's so difficult. Yeah. It's so difficult to go to my side job and talk about movies. Oh boy,
you're a martyr, Kynan. You're a saint. They'll make a little Catholic statue of you, and it'll just be you and a microphone. But you're looking up, you're holding your throat, and you're looking up to God, like with that sad kind of like expression.
He sat in a chair and he talked about movies.
And his co-host wouldn't let him leave. No, Kynan is doing this all like this is his choice, and I'm very, very grateful. So thank you, Kynan.
Well, thank you.
I'm just recording on my birthday, but whatever.
Hey, I was gonna wait till the end. All right.
Oh no! We'll cut that out. That was mean anyway. I should have stealing your. Okay. So from here, we cut back to a close-up on Chris's face. She turns when she sees Sharon and sees her and Willie running down the hall. Her and Willie, but not Karl.
Mm-hmm.
And as our friend at Exorcist Reviews on YouTube has pointed out, why? Because Karl is already here in this room.
Karl's already in the room the whole time?
The whole time!
So this would be the second time that we have an action scene in this room.
Yes.
And then it turns out that Karl's been there. Right, because Karl was in the bathroom when she went crazy on Dr. Klein.
Yes, listeners will remember that Karl, he had to take a little break. And it was this awkward moment of he was cleaning Miss Reagan's room, right. And nature calls, and he went in there with was reading the Washington Times and the Washington Post, and he lost track of time, and then all of a sudden he hears Sally Field out there and saying the sow is mine.
Exactly.
And he decides maybe I should just wait until they all go, and then it gets more and more intense, and it's just it's you had to be there, and I was there.
So I have always wondered about this, right? We teased this in their last minute. I've always wondered about why is it a shot of Sharon and Willie coming in,
and not
Karl, who we have seen in the previous scene with Detective Kinderman.
Right, he was downstairs.
Right,
he's like, a man is here to see you. What man, right?
Right, exactly. So our friend at Exorcist Reviews points out that Karl is there, right?
Yes.
But in the book, we have been told that Karl is here in this room.
Yes. So actually, let's see, where is it? Yeah, so if you'll remember, folks, the book does tell us that Karl was already up there. In fact, when Chris first hears this deep masculine voice shouting in, like, I guess you would say, like, sinister harmony with Reagan, she assumes that it is Karl. But then as she gets upstairs and closer to that room, she realizes it is a voice she has never heard before. However, upon opening the door, she also finds Karl sprawled on the floor, unconscious. So we are led to assume that Karl was up there when Captain Howdy started this particular fit, and Karl tried to help Reagan, only to be knocked aside like a rag doll, like Rag's doll. Like Rag's rag doll.
Exactly. So, like we have in the shot of Chris being pulled back, where we have 4 frames of this wire, we do actually get to see Karl in there. This had to be pointed out. I had to look at this on Exorcist Reviews over and over and over again. I was like, what are we talking about? I don't see Karl anywhere, but no, he is there. Did you see it, or did you had to have this pointed out to you as well, right?
I had to go on to Exorcist Reviews reached out to us and let us know. Okay, and great. Then I checked their YouTube video, and it explains it. Yeah.
Now that I've seen it, I will not be able to unsee it. It's very, very brief, but there's a shot where the armoire is going to come over to Chris. It's sort of like walking over at her, right?
Yeah.
It's probably being pulled by the exact same wire that they probably like untethered the wire from Ellen Burstyn and then put it onto this armoire. Right?
Anything to save a buck.
Right. So we
Billy.
do we get it for a little bit longer. Of course, our eyes are watching this armoire come directly at the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So if you purposely watch the movie incorrectly, as we do, and direct your attention to the base of the bed,
Yes.
you could see a man's shoe. And right above it, a man's arm lying there. And then some people have argued in the Exorcist review, like discussion, they're like, no, that's like a crew person or something. But there's no reason why a crew person would be splayed out the way they're doing. They're not like working or anything, and they're like directly on their back. So that is,
right.
I mean, almost certainly that is Karl or a double for Karl.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Also, no reason that a crew member would be dressed as a butler.
Yeah. That's true. It is really fun, right? When you see some of the behind the scenes footage of The Exorcist or like on Star Wars, you can see behind the scenes footage, and there's like, all this like period sci-fi stuff, and then there's like the boom guy holding like in pink hot shorts holding
right.
yeah. So that's fun on The Exorcist. Yeah, you can see that as well. But they did not wear Karl's shoes just for fun.
No. Just Rudolph Schindler. It's just like, it's like, oh yeah, we had some fun, on set of The Exorcist. We played pranks on each other, and then Rudolph Schindler comes out. He's like, where are my shoes? Somebody took my shoes, and he's just wearing like fuzzy pink slippers, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, so Karl is in that shot, and that goes with what the book was saying as well.
So when we actually in this original script here, we have it called out that Chris, when she comes in, she hears a male voice, right, and she expects that it's going to be Karl, but then it turns out to be Mercedes McCambridge, star of film and radio, major radio star, Mercedes McCambridge.
All the King's men.
Exactly. So then Chris comes in expecting to see Karl with this male voice. Male voice says, "You'll do as I tell you, filth. You'll..." Chris has turned head to stare at, point of view at Karl, blood trickling down from forehead. He lies unconscious on the floor near the bureau. So they almost certainly had recorded or filmed this, of Karl there, and then decided, what, we can, for whatever reason, we can cut that.
Right. Yeah. I'd be less annoyed if my scene was cut where like all I had to do was like, take a nap. If I was doing some like horrible stunt, like if they, and like I injured myself. Well, no, I see. Kynan,
would you want to see that? Right?
Yeah, this is a good question. Would you be more of Ellen Burstyn's mind, where it's like I don't want to see the shot that actually hurt me, or would you be like, so you injured me and you didn't even use it, like? Because now it's like, dang, okay, what would I like if given the choice, like, knock on wood that this never happens, but
this must be kind of bittersweet for her, because it is, in the shot, it's a good performance of her. It's an affecting shot. Like people have this visceral reaction to it, and then they learn it was one where she got hurt, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember that shot, and they're like, I remember that, like I knew it was something impactful to me, right? So I don't know, like it'd be nice if, I suppose, if Friedkin weren't vindicated, like if it turned out that it was a terrible take, but it wasn't. It was a good take.
Yeah, I think the best of a bad situation, let's say, would be if the story came out that she injured herself. Friedkin rushes over and is like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Miss Burstyn. We promise we won't use that footage." And then Ellen Burstyn is like, "No, like you're going to use that," or something like that. And then that's like so it's like, "Oh, did you know that Ellen Burstyn, like, she injured herself and she insisted that it was in the movie?" And then like that's giving her agency, and that's like, "Oh wow, she like she suffered for her art and she made sure that it was right."
Sure.
But at the same time, I can also understand, like, turn that fucking camera off.
But, the story, the best case scenario you're talking about doesn't happen because Billy Friedkin doesn't have empathy for his collaborators.
Of course. Yeah.
So over and over again.
It takes a human being for that to.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah. So now Sharon and Willie are running up to see what the matter is. But Captain Howdy says, nope. And he pushes that chair in front of the door, closing it with his powers. I mean, I don't mean like he jumped out of bed and he was like, right? Like, and then he turns to Chris and he's like, "A little help here, right? Your daughter's not exactly a bodybuilder. If I try this myself, I might hurt my back." And that's when he smiles. But no, We cut back to Chris grimacing in pain as she tries to get up off the floor. But then she stops as she sees this huge... I called it a chest of drawers. You're calling it an armoire?
Oh, I'm probably wrong. Don't take my interior design advice.
Okay. Folks, I actually tried to Google. I was like, what the hell is this? Like a chest of drawers, an armoire, just a wardrobe chest or something like that. Like, you know what it is. You've seen
No, it's not an arm. Hold on. It's not an armoire. Is it, Kynan? An armoire has to have doors, I think.
Oh.
Yeah. Listen. I don't know how much we've gone into this about how embarrassed I am as a gay man for not knowing basic things. Have we talked about this on this? Like, I've always felt like a bad gay. I don't dance. I don't drink. I don't dress particularly well. Which is quite useful as a podcast.
Kynan, I was going to comment. Today's dress code was just a little bit. I think it's affecting our reads right now. Honestly.
I'm sure I'm wearing the exact same thing I've worn the past 5 Sundays. We've done this.
Whereas much like Alfred Hitchcock, I always wear a tie when I record, folks.
Yes, I don't know any of the interior design terms for furnitures, etc. Like Maggie Simpson can point to a credenza and I can't,
Well.
But this is not an armoire. I apologize. Thank you for saving the emails. This is, some kind of... It's a dresser, right? It's
a dresser, yeah. Like a chest of drawers, a dresser. It's a big, heavy thing that holds Reagan's clothes. And that's also not Karl. Because he's also a big, heavy thing that holds Reagan's
Yeah, absolutely. No, well, I know an armoire is because that's a character in Beauty and the Beast,
right?
And she has doors that she opens up, right?
I was going to make a Beauty and the Beast joke here because it's like the thing is coming to life on its own, and it's like walking towards her. It's like
yes, yes.
Try the green stuff; it's delicious.
Don't believe me? Ask these bitches. They're your daughters. They're your maids.
God. Oh God. Wait. No. I have to. We'll pretend like I'm coming up with this on the fly. Do you know what I'm trying to look for?
No.
Okay. Do you remember we had in the compelling conversations we had that Disney thing? And I did a whole...
Oh, you've done this
parody.
already? Oh, yes. No, I didn't remember that.
Where is it? Let me find it. Come on. There we go. All right. Oh, wait, Kynan, how about this? Curse by curse, bout by bout, till he shouts, I cast you out! At the bottom of the stairs you're laid to rest. Go on and try to tell me what you think compels me. Be possessed. Be possessed. Be possessed. Be possessed. Be possessed. Yeah. Michael Poteet had one also. He's like he's the one who got me into this. So he goes, be possessed, put the priests unto the test, vomit up your split pea soup and let Monsignor do the rest.
Yeah, some of it's silver. Is that one lump or two?
Oh God, he's come here to break the spell. What we're saying, folks, is The Exorcist and Beauty and the Beast. I mean,
they sync up if you press play at the exact same time.
Absolutely, right? When those priests, when Father Karras falls out the window and Gaston falls off the parapet, I mean, it's right there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. That's what, okay. Yeah. So back again. We're back again in the film. So like we were saying before, we got distracted by the name of this piece of furniture. And folks, don't write in theexorcistminute@gmail.com. We don't care what this thing is.
I wish I did. I wish I was, gay enough to know the difference.
I mean, there's Kynan, there's a lot of different flavors of gay. as is my understanding, even though I'm not part of that community.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so we cut back to Chris, grimacing in pain as she tries to get up off the floor. But then she stops as she sees this huge chest of drawers now coming towards her. And at first, we are with Chris on the floor as this thing towers over us. But then we switch to what seems to be a POV of the dresser itself.
Yeah, very effective, right?
Yeah, it's like and it's like menacing Chris. It's getting closer and closer, and then back to Chris as this piece of furniture blocks out everything else in our vision. So we cut from there to another vantage point on the floor.
It's kind of from Karl's shoes point of view.
Yeah, right. This is Karl's shoe POV. And from here, we see that Chris is able to escape from being cornered. The chest is still moving, by the way, right? Which would suggest, Kynan, that Ellen Burstyn actually had to be in that position while that heavy chest of drawers was bearing down on her. Like, in fact, there's actually like bits of footage where Friedkin seems to be like testing out all of these effects, and he's in Burstyn's position, sort of like choreographing it all out, right? And you see the chair move, and then you see the chest of drawers come after him. So I'm assuming, again, even though we never see it in the finished film, I'm assuming there is a shot somewhere where Ellen Burstyn really is being attacked by this chest of drawers, even though you could just recreate what we have in the movie without her or the drawers ever in the same shot.
Yeah.
Like, you could just have that be the camera as it gets closer, right?
Yeah, well, they ended up with something much more elegant. I don't know if they went through it and actually had that shot, but yeah, what's in the movie is much better. With this footage of Friedkin back there doing all this, I mean, this is something that's it seems to make sense sometimes, where it's like, okay, from a safety perspective, okay, the director's going to go through what the actor's going through, right?
Yes.
But my experience is that what that can do is it can give the director a false sense of empathy with the actor, and they're like, well, I'm willing to do it, so why can't this actor do it? Which is two different things. Yeah. Like, just because I'm a sociopath, so why aren't they willing to do this type of thing? So
right.
I could totally see Friedkin doing that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then even on another level, it's like it may not have malfunctioned for him,
right?
But that I can very very easily see that chest of drawers like tipping.
Right.
Like it hits a little like irregularity in the wood paneling, and it just tumbles over on top of Ellen Burstyn.
Sure. All sorts of things could happen, right?
And have you ever had like something with drawers fall on you?
Yes.
And so you know the surprise that comes with that
is that the drawers sort of each individually pull out and hit you,
punch you in the face.
Yeah, each time. Yeah.
Yeah. So folks, that has happened to me.
I guess it's happened to both of us. I wonder if that's a common. And you were surprised as well that beyond the initial hit of the full thing, there's also these individual smaller. Yeah. Shocking punches, yeah.
It was actually, I mean, like thinking back on it, it actually was kind of funny. Because I put my hat, like same thing, same kind of like piece of furniture here, right? And it leans over and it falls on me, and I put my hands out to catch the bulk of the chest. But then the thing that I'm not touching is this drawer, so now the body of the chest has stopped, and the drawer just reaches out and punches me in the face. So that can like doubly dangerous, folks.
Right.
So I'm just thinking of poor Ellen Burstyn there again, and they're pulling it by a wire. Like, yeah, try to pull a heavy, even if empty, chest of drawers like across the room and not have it tip over, right? So yeah. So our next shot, folks, is the iconic head spinning scene. Actually, yeah, they call it head spinning, right? But it's not like Reagan is going, It's more of a head turning scene, right? It's not like Beetlejuice.
Yeah, but that doesn't really capture the spirit of what's going on. Head like turning or pivoting. I mean, it's a natural, so I don't know what you would call it. Maybe we don't have a word for it because it's so unusual, I suppose.
Yes, yeah, but it's certainly not spinning. It's not like a top, right?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So Reagan is now sitting up in her bed with her back to Chris, but now her head is turned all the way around. And yes, folks, now Captain Howdy is smiling.
Mm-hmm.
We cut back to Chris, who has made some progress. She's now on the other side of that chair, trying to push it away from the door. And now we hear a voice begin to speak. Now, Kynan, I at first did not pick up who this was supposed to be. Actually, so remember, folks, I said way back in minute 1 of this podcast that this was the scene that I walked in on when my parents were watching it. And I remember the demon speaking, and this was the first and only time I had heard the demon speak. So I just thought this was the demon's voice. But then again, later, still as a kid, I watched the whole thing all the way through, and I still didn't pick up on the fact that this is Burke Denning's voice.
Uh-huh.
And the reason Captain Howdy is using Burke's voice and saying what he's saying is to confirm to Chris the thing that she has been fearing, that Regan killed Burke, right? Was this obvious to you on the first pass, or
This was not obvious to me until you pointed it out on this podcast. So I've seen
on this podcast right now?
No, not in this minute, but previously.
Okay. Oh, I thought we had captured something. Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, no, we did in an earlier minute. So I forget which one that is.
Okay.
Tell me, but yeah, that had not occurred to me. I'm not sure why, but no, that just never made it into my thought process at all.
It's just like, because it's not Regan's voice, you immediately it's almost like that's all your brain can handle. It's like, that's not Linda Blair's voice, and then that's it.
Well,
and
also her fucking head's turning around, and there's a lot going on here.
There's a lot going on. Yeah.
I think it's a pretty shocking moment. So I've never ever put that together until you mentioned it earlier. Because we were talking about why she says cunting, and how strange of a word that is. And it's because Burke says cunting, and this is Burke's voice. But that had never occurred to me before we were looking through this.
Yeah. So like Captain Howdy in Regan's body, using Burke's voice, says, "Do you know what she did? Your cunting daughter." Now, in the TV version I had first seen, right when I walked in, like they had changed it to "your daughter."
This is what your parents are watching, was the TV version?
Is the TV version, right? Not the theatrical version, the TV, like on the television, which may add to the confusion, because like you're taking away Burke's favorite swear word, right? But yeah, so like again, like I was a kid, I didn't even notice Burke when he was alive when I first watched this all the way through, right? Like, and then when he died off screen, like, just like Karis's mother died off screen, I sort of just thought like, well, okay, this is the world of this movie, like just tragedy and death, like adding to the scariness, right? But I was like waiting for like the demon, so I didn't even like put 2 and 2 together that like Burke died because of Regan/demon, right?
Right. This is a very well thought of movie. But there are critics of, maybe not The Exorcist specifically that I've read, but of like the kind of 70s blockbuster film that The Godfather, The Exorcist, Jaws, Star Wars, Close Encounters become, leading up to like Raiders of the Lost Ark. That the critique of that type of movie as sort of a genre of blockbuster is that they become like roller coaster rides, and that they are so overwhelming that nuance is lost. So again, I think individually you'd be hard to be like, oh, in The Godfather everything is so clear, right, or whatever. But it's possible. Like there's I could understand their point of view, where it's like in the book that's clearer because we're going into nuance and we're going into feeling and emotion and implications and like, oh, what's the bigger picture? Whereas this, and
you also have like the inner monologue of Chris's like thoughts, worrying about Regan killing Burke and all that.
Yeah, and this is so overwhelmingly visceral, like this type of filmmaking, that I could excuse like I don't know if the filmmakers are like necessarily worried that we don't get those implications, because like no one is like, why is this happening? We're just so overtaken, right, by this pure emotion.
Yeah. I think for the longest time, I actually thought when she says, "Do you know what she did?" I thought she was referring to the crucifix.
Yes.
Like, do you know what your daughter did? Like she did something very, very bad, right?
Right.
With the crucifix. Like I did not put it together that he was talking about Regan killing Burke at all.
Right.
Yeah. It wasn't until I read the book and like that realization came to light. But yeah, like as you say, Kynan, we may not necessarily need that for this scene to impact us and scar us for life, I guess. But yeah. Now, a couple of things before we leave this room, leave this act and begin Act 2 of our movie. Yes, folks, this is the end of Act 1. Can you believe it? An hour and 20 minutes into the film, and here we are, second act. But, before we move on, before the curtain closes on this grisly, gruesome scene, let's go behind the scenes again and talk a little bit about this dummy. So now this dummy was a collaboration between Dick Smith and Marcel Decoteur. Anecdotally, Decoteur said to Smith, "You take care of the outside and I'll take care of the inside." And so Dick Smith made a full body cast of Linda Blair, and Marcel fitted the head with all the mechanisms which would give it life. There is some behind the scenes footage floating around. I'll post a link in the listener group where you can see them lift up the wig from behind and open up the head, and you can see all the inside stuff that's there to like move the eyes and whatnot. And we don't see it here, but later on they would have to modify the dummy even more once the room was refrigerated, and we will talk about that when we get there. But for now, Kynan, what do you think about this dummy? Is this effective? Is it convincing?
For me, it's convincing enough in the context of the film. I've heard some complaints of it, from students or people who are watching it now, that it's not as realistic as they would hope. But I mean, it's there for a very brief amount of time, and when you're looking at it out of the context of the film without the sound, I think it's much easier to like pick it apart. But just for that shock value of it, it works for me. If you're watching it the correct way, if you're watching it the wrong way, like me and you, or like we're doing, you see it's a dummy.
Yes, yeah. And again, folks, I think we talked about this in earlier minutes with the uncanny valley. I think even the most sophisticated dummy would have a tough time fooling us for long.
Right.
There's just certain postures and movements, how our skeleton holds and distributes the weight of our fat and our muscles, stuff we don't even notice until it's not there. And just the fact that we're always moving, even when we're still, like I'm using finger quotes when I say still, right? Because we're never really still unless we're dead. And that's why dummies are creepier the more detailed they are, because then they just look like a dead person, right?
Right.
And when we make big movements, it's actually comprised of like hundreds of smaller movements, shifting and correcting and breathing and slowing and quickening, all of that stuff, right? There's this term in animation called easing. Kynan, have you heard of this?
A little bit. I have trouble with it, but yes.
Okay. So real quick, easing in animation is based on the understanding that nothing goes from 0 to 100 when it moves, or 100 to 0 when it stops. There's a process of building up speed, doing the action, and then slowing back down and then stopping, right? If you skip these steps, your actions seem herky-jerky, like a robot, or a dummy, or a reanimated dead person, like a zombie, right? The difference between dancing like a robot and dancing like a person is easing in and out of different poses. So just, I mean,
well,
like,
think of that. I mean, that's a much better explanation of easing than I've heard before. So thanks.
Yeah.
I think I get it now, Lester.
Yeah. So it's like think about like when people do the robot as a dance, right? They're taking out all of the eases. They're like,
right.
Yeah. So that's like instead of like when you dance normally, like think of ballet, right? Think of a robot trying to do ballet. That's without the eases, right? Yeah. So what I'm saying is, as slow and fluid as this turning of the head is, you can still kind of see the absence of like actual human motion in here, right? If you're looking for it, right? In any case, though, I think it actually works here. It adds to the creepiness, right? And whether that's intentional or unintentional on Friedkin's part, I think filmmakers today understand that we're not yet at the level where we can replicate life without it looking creepy. So why not just use it specifically for the horror genre, right? So like you have Annabelle and Chucky, and I guess the newest one is Megan.
With the 3.
Right? The Mithrigan, right? Right up there with the Vitch. But yeah, that's taking an advantage of and utilizing the fact that we can't fully replicate life, right? Even today's AI, right, as advanced and as scary as it is for different reasons, for very different reasons, still has that like creepy, not quite real look and sound to it, right? It's the absence of flaws, the absence of imperfections, right? I haven't yet heard an AI voice do that. You see that thing? The thing that I just did, right? Yeah. So all of our flaws, all of our imperfections, right? Like an AI is going to like take all of those out and sound absolutely perfect, right? Unless you program it to sound as dumb as I sound sometimes.
Right. Or as a human being does, right? Yeah.
As a human being does, yeah.
Yeah,
right?
so this is 36 frames, I was counting, of this dummy. And yeah, I mean, just it takes a couple of frames for us to even understand what we're looking at when we cut to something.
Right.
So I mean, we're talking about maybe a full second of this, and it's totally fine for me. Yeah, the nitpicking, I think, happens when you are taking it out of context. You're looking just at that shot without the shot that comes before it, or again, taking the sound out of it. But yeah, it's such a shocking idea. I don't think we needed to, quote unquote, look real.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think again, like the uncanny valiness, like just adds to it.
Like,
yeah. Right.
What's
Which is exactly
what.
Right. Now, folks, one last thing before we close on Act 1 of our story. This is a rather important thing. Kynan, do you know that this scene is actually the subject of not one argument between our director, William Friedkin, and our writer/producer, William Peter Blatty? Not one, but two disagreements. Did you know about the other one?
The head spin? I'm not sure.
Yes. So apparently, folks, it was never Blatty's intention for Reagan's head to spin all the way around.
All the way around.
All the way around. That was Friedkin, not Blatty.
Uh-huh.
Why? Because if Captain Howdy really did spin Reagan's head all the way around, it would kill her. She would die.
I guess. I mean,
and that was never Blatty's intention. Like, according to Blatty, right, his idea was that Captain Howdy would twist her neck almost to the breaking point, to like an excruciatingly painful degree, as another way of mocking Chris. Like, do you know what she did? This is what she did to Burke. Do you see? And this is what I can do at any moment to her.
Okay.
Now, the reason I bring this up is because there are scenes later in the book which are full of tension about whether or not Reagan will survive, right? She's malnourished, she's dehydrated, she's sleep deprived, and her heart is getting weaker and weaker. And this exorcism, or the demon's response to the exorcism, is killing Reagan's body. And there's this weight on Karras as he thinks about how he could save her if he just got her to a hospital. And if she died in this room, it would be his fault. And there's a moment where he gives her Librium to calm her down. But then he notices how feeble her heart rate is. And the demon says, you shouldn't have given her that Librium. Now I'm not going to let her sleep. And he has this chilling realization that the shot he just gave her is probably going to kill her or put her in a coma. But all of that tension, that whole interaction, means nothing if Captain Howdy can just spin her head around like Beetlejuice with no real world consequences. Right? Like this drama relies on a world with real life consequences, right? And that was Blatty's argument. Now, somehow, Friedkin convinced him otherwise, and the result is probably the most iconic visual of the entire movie, right? Even little kids who don't know what The Exorcist is still take an action figure, they turn its head around, and they say, look, it's The Exorcist, right? This is the thing for this movie, and after the fact, Blatty has admitted that, once again, Billy was right. So, Kynan, what do you think of Blatty's argument here? What do you think of this weird inconsistency about?
Yeah, I do think Friedkin is right. I don't think that we're thinking about any of that stuff, and it doesn't worry me. I think it's just okay. It's magic, and that's okay.
Yeah, right. Like Captain Howdy can do whatever he wants, and
or at least he could do this obviously because he did it. So we're not really thinking about like, can he do that? Well, we did.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. Yeah. And folks, this is something I want to hear from you about as well. Like, what do you think, right? It's hard to imagine an Exorcist movie without the head spinning, right?
Right.
But I also kind of agree, I was like, what Blatty says makes sense, you know. What about you? You can write to us at theexorcistminute@gmail.com, or you can post in our listener group and get a discussion going. You can also tweet us now or send a message on Instagram. Both of those are just at The Exorcist Minute. So check us out on those platforms and tell us what you think. And stick around because I post memes and artwork and other Exorcist-related stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I think again in a novel we probably are. You might make those connections and think about the implications of it, but in this roller coaster ride of a film that I was talking about, yeah, maybe we're just. That's never occurred to me. I've never been bothered by it.
Yeah.
You don't have time to think about it, probably.
No, it happens too fast, right? Yeah. Okay, so now I think we can finally leave this room and leave this act. Folks, we've made it. We have reached the end of Act 1. Please eject the video cassette and insert the cassette labeled The Exorcist Part 2. Please turn the disc over and press play. Please subscribe to Patreon for Act... No. Can you imagine?
I can imagine.
Yeah. No. Okay, this is it, folks. We are in Act 2. Now, Kynan, one more time, could you explain to us why this would be considered Act 2, even though it is so late in the movie?
Okay, so you can totally disagree with us on this if you want to, but I would say that like the definition of Act 2 by a lot of people's standards is like when we have decided that we are going to try to solve the problem of the movie. And so far we've been trying to solve the problem we haven't been trying to solve the problem of the movie of
we're trying to figure out the problem.
Right. We've been trying to figure out it, or we've been trying to solve a side effect of it. But the problem is that she's possessed by a demon.
Yes.
So before that, we have been not trying to do anything about the demon at all. We've been trying to cure the other stuff in it. So I would say that Act 2 is when we say, okay, we're going to solve the actual problem that involves, our two main characters meeting each other
and
coming
for the first time in this
first time in the movie and coming up with a plan and like admitting what is going on in the film.
Mm-hmm.
So by those regular definitions, this is the beginning of Act 2. You could make other arguments, and those would be pretty valid because most of the time, Act 1 is like half an hour of exploring and figuring out the ordinary world, and then being off kilter in such a way that we're open to new suggestions, and being presented with what the problem is and saying, I'm not going to try to solve that. I'm going to refuse the call to adventure and all that stuff. And that takes us to where we are here. So I could definitely see people arguing with that, saying, well, that's just not how movies work. They just don't have 80-minute Act 1s. But I don't know. It seems to be doing all the functions that we would want in our first act here.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Like, as soon as you pointed it out, I was like, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so, folks, not only is this the beginning of a new act in the film, this is also the exact beginning of a new part in the book. We are now in Part 3, The Abyss. You'll remember that Part 1 was labeled the beginning, very biblical, right? Part 2 was the edge, and after a long time spent teetering on that edge, we have now finally fallen into the abyss. And what better way to kick off this leg of the journey than with a little reading? So here we go. A reading from the Book of Blatty. Part 3, The Abyss. Chapter 1. She was standing on the Key Bridge walkway, arms atop the parapet, fidgeting, waiting, while homeward-bound traffic stuttered thickly behind her, while drivers with everyday cares honked horns and bumpers nudged bumpers with scraping indifference. She had reached Mary Jo, told her lies.
Reagan's fine. By the way, I've been thinking of another little dinner party. What was the name of that Jesuit psychiatrist again? I thought maybe I'd include him in the...
Laughter floating up from below her. A blue-jeaned young couple in a rented canoe. With a quick, nervous gesture, she flicked ash from her cigarette and glanced up the walkway of the bridge toward the district. Someone hurrying toward her, khaki pants and blue sweater. Not a priest, not him. She looked down at the river again, at her helplessness swirling in the wake of the bright red canoe. She could make out the name on its side, Caprice. Footsteps. The man in the sweater coming closer, slowing down as he reached her. Peripherally, she saw him rest a forearm on the top of the parapet, and quickly she averted her head towards Virginia. Keep moving, creep, she rumbled at him huskily, flipping her cigarette into the river. Or I swear to Christ I'll call a cop. Miss McNeil? I'm Father Karras. She started, reddened, jerked swiftly around, the chipped, rugged face. Oh my God. Jesus. She was tugging at her sunglasses, flustered, and immediately pushing them back as the sad, dark eyes probed hers. I should have told you that I wouldn't be in uniform. Sorry. His voice was cradling, stripping her of burden, as his powerful hands clasped gently together. They were large and yet sensitive, veined Michelangelos. Chris felt her gaze somehow drawn to them instantly. I thought it would be much less conspicuous, he continued. You seemed so concerned about keeping this quiet. Guess I should have been concerned about not making such an ass of myself, she retorted, quickly fumbling through her purse. I just thought you were... human, he interjected with a smile. I knew that when I saw you one day on the campus, she said as she searched now in the pockets of her suit. That's why I called. You seemed human. She looked up and saw him staring at her hands. Got a cigarette, Father? This is actually a really sweet scene. I could get used to this. You know, Kynan, this new chapter of our story is pretty promising. I have a feeling things are going to be all right.
Yeah.
But no, so it actually plays out pretty similar here. But before we get to them on the bridge, I want to talk about this chilling, this haunting transition, and then this beautiful shot. So this is another L cut, correct?
Right, where we're still hearing Chris scream over this beautiful shot of this foliage. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, and this is one of the ones I specifically remember from when I first saw this movie.
Mhm.
It had an effect on me then, and it has an effect on me now. Kynan, I don't think in all our talks about L cuts and J cuts, I don't think we ever talked about when and why you would use one over the other. What is the actual purpose of these cuts? And I'm asking this fully admitting that this has done to me whatever it has set out to do. I just don't know what. So actually, can I try to answer it first? Can I take a stab at it?
Oh, yeah, because I was going to say everything is contextual, right? So, sure. Yeah, what about this one here?
Okay, so I feel like it is taking two characters. It is linking two characters, the two scenes, in a way that a regular cut would not necessarily link them. I have seen it in other films, and even in this film a little later, where it seems like the echo of the previous scene indicates that the purpose, or indicates that the person in the new scene was like thinking about it. But that can't be true in this case because they've not met yet.
Right.
But it also feels like a really good delineation marker between the two scenes. Like it really is the end of Act 1 of that part of the story and the beginning of a new chapter, right? It's almost operatic. It's like the final crescendo, right, of Chris's scream, right? But it also seems like, okay, and this is the crazy one. So tell me if I'm if I'm way off, right?
That all sounds that all makes sense so far. So
okay, all right. Well, get ready. By having her voice linger as he emerges in this new scene, it feels like he is the answer to her cry.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Okay, so it feels like the auditory version of a slow dissolve. The chosen one is out there somewhere, but who could he possibly be? And then you slow dissolve to like Luke kicking rocks on the moisture farm.
Exactly, right.
Right? So this feels like the audio-visual cue that Chris and Karis are not only part of the same story, but also that he is going to help her.
Right.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think even in a non-narrative way, we also have just the idea of like, okay, here's this woman screaming out, and then here's this shot of peaceful, peaceful fall foliage and how beautiful it is, right?
Yeah.
And if we had just cut, right, it would be more ironic. It'd be kind of like, oh, look at this woman here, and then we cut without the audio, and it's like, oh, and then there's peace some other place. By having the audio trail into the next one, it's like, oh, isn't that unsettling that like, oh, there's peace and beauty, but then we're still thinking very much about the previous, we're still experiencing the previous screams and heartache.
Right. Yeah. So and they're existing at the same time, right? It's like there's peace somewhere.
Right.
Yeah. Ah, okay. Interesting. But yeah, so we got this beautiful shot here, folks. Like this cold autumn morning, orange yellow leaves carried by this chill wind. We're back to wind again, folks. And Karis emerging onto the scene. Like the angle of the path makes it look like he is rising up out of the earth, right?
Ascending.
Ascending, right? He walks quickly, hands in pockets, as if hurrying to some appointment. Oh, that sounds familiar too. Right? Now we cut from there to a shot of a bridge, right? Which seems a lot smaller than I remember. Actually, right? You can almost barely call it a bridge, and that's the Potomac down below, right?
I would probably not.
Okay,
because the Potomac is like a real river, so this is like a stream here. But like in DC with all of this. Could it be the Potomac? Maybe you're right.
Like where the Potomac kind of like peters out or something.
Well, I was thinking about that now as I was saying it, but yeah, I think it's one of these side sort of inlets because in DC there's all these. It's sort of they say like DC is the swamp, right? I don't mean to quote like Trump, but like that is the case. DC was built upon like this marshy land, so there's all these little inlets to the Potomac. Because the Potomac is that shot that we have of Georgetown as we're going in. That's the Potomac. That's like a real. That's like a real river.
Like the first thing we see of Georgetown.
Yeah, that's a real river. So like that bridge that's crossing that is, hundreds of feet across.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is, so I was right to think because like I'm more used to the book and this meeting on the bridge is in the book. So, and then we see it in the movie. I was like, oh, that's a very small bridge.
Very small bridge.
Yeah. Now Kynan, this shot also has a lot of sharp angles, it seems. Like, but I don't know, like maybe it's the blues and the greens. So I get more of a sense of peace here than maybe I normally would with all the like the sharp edges and everything.
Right.
Like, what's going on? Like,
I think that's true. Yeah. That it feels a lot more peaceful than some, like the previous shot of the stairs, which has a lot of these jagged lines in it too. The stairs, that's the Exorcist stairs.
The Exorcist, the famous Exorcist stairs.
Right. This is the famous Exorcist bridge.
Right, yeah. You buy a T-shirt. It's like, I stood on the famous Exorcist bridge, right? And then they bury you in the T-shirt that says, I fell down the famous Exorcist stairs.
I think it's interesting that in the book, as you read, we have it from Chris's point of view of her waiting. And here we have it basically from Damien's point of view of him like kind of dreading going to a meeting as opposed to Chris's dreading being met.
Yeah, definitely. Now, it's really interesting, the movement in this scene. We got this couple walking on the right, heading left, and then we got Karis on the other end of the bridge, and he's heading right. We got Chris in the center, and then below her, we got these two joggers who are sort of coming toward us at an angle. But it's mostly like they're going right to left. And like I said, in the very center, we got Chris, who's not moving anywhere, but she is sort of like covering up and making herself small as these people get closer. It's almost like they're closing in on her. And then we get another shot. Karis has reached her, and now he stops. Chris MacNeil. But Chris is in no mood to meet an adoring fan. And without turning around, in fact, she turns away a little bit. She says, please go away. But Karis seems to understand, so he introduces himself. I'm Father Karis. Chris turns. Another shot over Karis' shoulder. And now we can just see that there is something awful underneath those big, dark sunglasses Chris is wearing, right? But she smiles a tired smile and holds out her hand to him. Karis tries to lighten the mood with a joke. It's all right, I should have told you I wouldn't be in uniform. Chris shoots back. Yeah, that would have helped. Even in the face of terror, even now when it looks like she's mourning, she still musters up the strength to be jovial.
That's a really good way of putting it. She looks like she's mourning. I think that's important. So let's put a pin on that. Like she looks like she has lost her daughter, right?
Yeah. This is the beginning of a more subdued but like very emotional fencing or tennis match between these two. And this time around, I thought of Karis and Kinderman and their match from before. So Chris asks if Karis has got a cigarette. And that, folks, is where our minute ends. Kynan, is there anything else we missed here?
I just want to point out, it's interesting how we've talked about Blatty being more sentimental and Friedkin seeming to try to take us into the more misanthropic sort of feelings here. And so this is a change from the book and the original screenplay where Chris thinks Karis is hitting on her, and then the book the movie doesn't have that. The movie just has expecting it's a fan or something, right? So in the screenplay and the book, keep moving, creep. And we sort of soften that for the movie, which is not the typical path we've seen so far.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. So like just by the indication of like creep.
Right.
Yeah. That wouldn't be like, can you sign an autograph? That'd be like I'm
on a bridge. I'm a woman alone on a bridge and you're coming up and talking to me, right? You're a creep.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
Jeez. The things, because I never have to worry about that. It never even entered my mind.
Right, but that's
I can walk alone at night. It's not a problem.
It's not a problem, right?
Yeah, which is sad. I'm not joking about that. I'm saying that's horrible.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
so that's it.
But yeah, so that is it for our minute, folks. So this has been another excellent Exorcist Minute. I've been Lester Ryan Clark. You can reach me on all the socials as Lester Ryan Clark.
And I've been Kynan Diaz with the cold, and you can find me on Instagram and Letterboxd as Howdy Kynan.
Yes. We got our listener group, Compelling Conversations. Go check that out and request to join, and we'll let you in here with us. Thank you so much to everyone who's shared the show by word of mouth or on social media, and a big thank you to everyone who has given us a 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to our show. We really appreciate it. That's going to help our little podcast grow and find more cool people like you. All right, Kynan, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think I am, Lester.
Folks, until next time, the power of Frankenstein compels you. So are we talking about like the monster or
the monster? No, the doctor.
Or
the name of the doctor is the name of the author is Frankenstein.
The name of the podcast. I think you should go watch the movie Frankenstein. It will cheer you up greatly. But doctor, I'm Frankenstein. That's a Pagliacci, or is it Pagliacci joke?
Pagliacci.
Yeah. Or Pagliacci. Yeah. Christine tears the mask off the Phantom's face, and it's Frankenstein.
I'm sorry, Christine, I can't be your angel of music because I am the Phantom of the Opera.
Wow. Okay.
That doesn't change anything for me at all.
No. You're just another. You're telling me you're a different something of something. But you can still teach me, right? In the same manner that you've been teaching me. He just turns back to the organ. He's like, you can see yourself out.
Right.
No, I can't. I don't know how to get out of here. He's just pretending to ignore her.